Hello, everyone, which I think is only a few people right now, but that's just great. I see one person there that I don't know, and very welcome. So maybe we'll just I might just play the intro music one more time, just while we wait a couple minutes, and then I'll get started right after that. Okay. Right, I'm gonna start. So, hello everyone. I think it will be pretty obvious that I'm new to this live streaming business. But anyway, welcome to Virtually Maker Faire. This is my 6th Maker Faire presentation over the last 2 years. No travel or expense this time, but no vacation or warm weather afterwards. This electronic music keyboard that I want to tell you about today, actually I call the EMMMA-K. I actually has a very long history and kind of twists and turns along the way, and that's the story that I want to tell you about. And there's a COVID-19 connection. Which you may have got a hint from that first song or from looking at my website. But anyway, I'll explain that at the end. I'm using a bunch of hotkeys here, so I'm sorry if I stumble. So I'm going to park myself up, excuse me, up in the top right corner. And I'm doing this in a presentation format because it's what I'm most familiar with, but I am bravely going to do some live demos, and I'm going to kind of run through these slides quickly. There's a lot of pictures, and like I said, it's a story more than anything else. So about me, well, I've been around, had a 40-year plus career in several industries, including aerospace a couple of times. My technical area of expertise is embedded systems, which means hardware and software on little computers. I live in Atlantic Canada, where we have long winters, perfect for working on electronics projects or all kinds of projects. And look at that great picture out our backyard, probably not that long ago. For the past 2.5 years, I've been privileged to be a full-time maker, but I've always been an electronics hobbyist. Electronic music. Well, this goes back to the 50s, really. Ever since there was electronics and music combined. Anyway, I first heard something called the Moog synthesizer when I was a teenager. I was like totally thrilled with that. And a few years later, when I first started working, I built a simple version of my own design. It sounded great, and this was all analog electronics at the time on handmade circuit boards. But then I started my career for real, and it got in the way, unfortunately. So electronic music today, well, if you go into any music store or check online, you'll see there's just a plethora of standalone instruments and computer software, but there's still, what I found is, and what's really exciting is with just a regular computer, laptop, and inexpensive keyboard, you can do amazing things. So what I'm showing here in this picture, this is my MacBook Pro that I'm using right now, and it runs Garageband, which comes with it, and a low-cost keyboard I purchased off Amazon. So it's not just for Apple computers. Here we have on the left my old laptop with the same keyboard, and on the right we have an iPad, and that's also running Garageband, which comes with iOS for free as well. There's software for Android, which I have an Android tablet, but I didn't have time to try it out. There are some interesting other kinds of keyboards. This is a little electronic keyboard. It works okay. It has a lot of limitations, including quite a bit of delay from when you hit a note to when it plays, but it's great for practice. And actually I carried this around with me on a lot of business trips to spend time in hotel rooms. The secret to all of this is something called MIDI, and that's the secret sauce that makes all these things work together. So what it stands for is a musical instrument digital interface, and it's been a standard since 1983, and allows connecting music instruments, keyboards, computers to each other by cable, USB, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. And as I said, with just simple keyboard and software, you can do amazing things. But for performance, none of this is very portable, especially if the keyboard is a full-size piano style. Although you can see people carrying around keyboards with straps around their shoulders, but not too often. So the dream. The dream here is about that I had, which goes back a long time, was making an electronic music keyboard that was handheld, easy to play, something different. So in October of 2016, which I can't believe how long ago that was, I went to see an artist, Basha Bulat, in concert at the Halifax Pop Explosion. She's a folk and pop music singer-songwriter from Toronto who I really like. And I just want to mention that she had a brand new album that came out just about a month ago during COVID. And I recommend having a listen to it. So during the song, one of her songs in this concert, she used this handheld instrument that I'd never seen before. And it's the pictures there on the right. So you can see it's a metal box with a bunch of buttons and some knobs. And it makes amazing sound. It's a sequencer, and it plays chords. And the song that she wrote, I don't know if she had the instrument made to go with the song. Anyway, it's a great song. I couldn't find out anything about it, about the instrument. But the one thing I thought was, I could do that. I could make one of those, and that really got me going. But unfortunately, it's a really busy time for me at work, so I never had a chance to pursue it. So, fast forward. After the Bay Area Maker Faire last May, I started thinking about a new project for this year and got me interested in electronic music keyboards again. And actually, at the Maker Fairs I've gone to, there's always been a pretty good electronic music content, and always very interesting. And so that was sort of exciting to maybe become part of that community of people. I discovered something called the HurdyGurdy, which is a medieval age music stringed instrument. And I wondered if electronic keyboard could be modeled after that. And sure enough, you do a search on Google, and you'll find that people have done such things. And I thought, well, I'll give that a try. The HurdyGurdy. Well, coincidentally or not, I saw 2 HurdyGurdys from the 1700s in a museum in Florence on a visit after the Maker Faire Rome, and that got me going. I originally called this project Hurdy, as I had it in mind only being the hurdy, part of a hurdy, the front part maybe. So obviously what I ended up with doesn't look anything like a HurdyGurdy. So now what I want to tell you about, I think this is a good time to start, is I want to tell you how to go from an idea to a prototype. And I'm going to use this as an example. Now, for you makers that are listening to this, I know this is probably very intuitive, but I know I have a pretty wide audience. Anyway, let's continue. So, if we look at what Basha had done there, well, we're going to need some keys. They're going to mount them on an enclosure of some kind. And maybe we'll use some push buttons. And if it's going to be a HurdyGurdy, which has a hand crank that moves the wheel over the strings on the real instrument, then we need something that we can rotate around in a circle and turn that into some kind of signal. For sure, we're going to need a microcontroller. Well, I forgot to disable my notification. Sorry about that. Anyway, here's a rotary encoder. It's a very inexpensive device. It looks like a potentiometer, but it goes around in continuous circles. Very intriguing device. I'm laughing at the notifications. Here's the collection of buttons. The one on the left are for circuit boards. The one on the right are meant to be panel mounted. Too small and flimsy or too big and clunky. What was I going to mount those big buttons on? Well, that's a piece of plastic drain pipe. And it looked like that might be okay. And I could kind of arrange it in a piano pattern like you have there. And that's actually the way the keys on a HurdyGurdy are arranged. But it ended up being, too big. And I didn't have a drill bit big enough to actually drill holes for those. So I kind of got discouraged by that. So that wasn't going the way I wanted it to. Then one day, out of the blue, when I was looking at something on YouTube, I got a suggestion to look at a video about the kalimba, which I had never heard of before. That's how I discovered the kalimba and April Young. This is the perfect layout for an electronic keyboard, at least in my mind. You play it with your thumbs and you touch the keys and you pluck them with your fingernail on the real instrument. It makes a beautiful sound. And I'll put links to both to Basha and to April, it's on my website already, and it will be attached to this video, along with quite a few other links. But anyway, thanks to April and others, there are lots of instructional videos and even a tablature notation for being able to teach someone or how to show how you play a song. And so this really attracted me because this would make it like really easy to learn. And even for me, it was beautiful. And the thing that really appealed to me was I could use something called a touch key then instead of a button. And that means it's kind of like your touch screen. When you touch it, you know how it works on your iPad or on your phone. Well, this is the same kind of thing, except when you touch a key, it gives a signal. So, concept emerges now. It's time to think about a microcontroller for this. And as I said in my introductory video on my YouTube, my new shiny new YouTube channel, I'm not going to really get into any technical details about this. I just want to give everybody a flavor for it. So there are many choices for microcontroller these days, and there's just a wide range of choice. But because of my experience and actually doing a search, will bring you to a couple of ones that are really valuable for this. There's something called the Teensy LC. And it's very inexpensive, that brings this all together. It's very inexpensive, and it costs less than $20. It can handle 11 touch keys and produce USB MIDI, which means you plug it into your laptop, and there are multiple software libraries available. So programming this, at least to start with, means just kind of gluing things together with a few little simple lines of text. And I'm actually going to bravely show you this, I hope, with a live demo in a minute. One of the things we need to worry about, though, with a touch key is the delay from the time you touch it to the time the sound would be made. And we call that latency. And your ear is very sensitive to this. Even the untrained ear can hear, starting at like 20 milliseconds, that's 20 thousandths of a second, start to hear the delay, and it certainly will bother a professional musician. So I really wanted to keep that down. So I guess I'm going to do the Touchpin demo now. So let's do that. And I have too many hotkeys. Sorry about that. So here I'm looking at my bench here, my computer desk actually, and here we have the Teensy, and it's a tiny little thing, as you can see in my hand here. I'm sorry for the lighting. I couldn't find a good spotlight to put on here. What I've done is I've connected a wire. This is called a DuPont connector that I can plug things into, and I made a pin. This is the same brass wire that's on the EMMMA-K that I'm going to talk about very quickly. So you can see it does nothing here at the moment, and I'm going to quickly plug things in here. So now what we have is is called Blinky. Just blink the LED. Everyone starts with this. This is an Arduino compatible board, and it's just that it's very powerful. And as I said, it has a built-in Touchpin capability and the ability through the USB to generate MIDI signals. So now what I'm going to bravely attempt is, let me just change my view here. Okay, so I'm going to show you the code to use a Touchpin. So this is it. Two things happen when we first run this program. It's going to go through a setup, and you can see by just looking at this, it's going to enable the LED. I'm going to start some serial output, which I'm not going to bother with, but that's so I can see some text on the screen, and then I'm going to enable my touch pin there. Then when it starts running, it's just going to, this line here tells me if the pin has been touched, and if the pin's touched, I turn the LED on, and if it's not touched, I turn it off. So that's it. So now I have to upload this, which is maybe the most dangerous part of this whole thing. I think it worked. All right, I touched the pin. Nope, it didn't. So this is a problem with live demos. And too many hotkeys. There we go. All right, I touch the pin, LED goes on. All right, one more. This time, I'm going to add the MIDI. Really, as simple as this. When I'm touched, I'm going to turn the LED on, and I'm also going to call the library routine, which is actually built into the Teensy support library, which is going to send a note. So let's, hopefully, this will upload in one shot. Yeah. Maybe not. Try again. Oh, I think it did. Oh, try again. One more time. There we go. So actually what I did for this project is, actually, let me go back to my presentation now. First, I'm going to unplug the Teensy, or I'm going to get caught. And I'm going to plug the EMMMA-K back in. All right. Let me go back to my presentation. And yes, that was a Touchpin demo. There we are. So let's get on to the it. I see I'm not going to run out of time, as usual. All right, so it's all coming together. We need touch pins. Seems like it'll work great. Now I'm still stuck with an enclosure. Well, it turns out I found a good size. Is a cardboard box from the previous century that contained CD case for computer software. I wired up a few of these wires, and I just punched holes in that box and stuck them in. So that's the shape of the kalimba, as you saw. I have to say, at the very beginning, the performance was quite disappointing. It wasn't very sensitive, and it was a bit unreliable. Even though you saw that my single pin on the bench worked, as soon as you put it in a box, you're going to have a problem. So I did two things. I made those keypads, the touch points, bigger. I just soldered loop of wire on there because I wasn't taking this thing all apart again. And then I put a ground plate on the back, which is just copper tape. And you basically, when you hold the box, your fingers touch that. You don't actually have to make contact with it. It's actually could be covered with something invisible. But I wanted to leave it like, I left it like this just to actually with the idea of showing it to people. So just finishing up. Well, as I said, the Teensy can do 11 pins. There are 17 pins on the kalimba. The other thing I wanted to do was I wanted something to give this some unique features. So I won't get into it, but what I did is I took the flight controller from a quadcopter, from one that I had left over, and that's the one that you see there on the top. That's the tilt sensor. Now, I needed two Teensies. So a master and a slave. I chose to do it that way because I wanted to keep the latency or the delay down. So these two little boards talk to each other. The master does 11 pins and produces the MIDI. The slave does the rest of the pins, and it also some function buttons. And someday when there'll be a user interface for this, it'll handle that too. So, so when I did all that, and I'm showing down below here is just the wiring harness, and as you can see, this is not ready for prime time. My next goal, as far as the case is concerned, I've already started to 3D print something, and I'll be doing that and making something better. I found that the keys on this one were a little too close together. So what's the COVID-19 connection? Well, I had the first fully working version of the EMMMA-K completed on March 19th, just as we started to enter lockdown for COVID-19. I started wondering what the battle between the virus and your antibodies might sound like from a musical perspective. I don't know what I was thinking. And by the time the state of our emergency was enacted on March 22nd, I was well on my way to a 14-day obsession that resulted in an album on SoundCloud called Antibodies. And it's crude, but it is what I did. All right. How much time do I have? So I've got 5 minutes left in my time slot, and I guess there's no harm. I'm in going over a little bit, so I'll keep going a little bit over time. But if you need to get away and watch one of the other great presentations, then please do so. What am I going to do here? I'm going to bring up Garageband. So this is Garageband running on my Mac. And as you can see, for those familiar with it, it's actually a great piece of software, although it takes quite a bit of getting used to. But here I have 3 different instruments. Here's the flute. This actually a mellotron, which is a vintage instrument, and I love the sound of this. So what you do is you just touch it with your thumbs, and which is exactly how you play a kalimba. I don't need to, I would have rounded edge here so I could get my hands closer. This is something that's been suggested to me by my brother. He keeps suggesting it, which is a great idea. Anyway, let's just see. So this will just plays the scale, and it's alternating notes. So you can see it's very responsive. So that's just playing, as I said, in the key of C, playing any Garageband instrument. Things get a little more interesting when we, whoops, keep clicking on the wrong screen. Things get a little more interesting. This is an arpeggiator. Now let me play something because I'm hopeless at playing something like this live, especially without a glass of wine in front of me. But let's just do something. This is just something fooling around just to give you the idea of what you can do. So that's recorded in Garageband and being played back in Garageband. You can have as many channels as you want, and it's a great. So I'm just going to, yeah, I think I get the idea. I like the ending, so I'll just let it play through. So I've got some questions, and I'm going to answer them, get back to answering them in a second. Anyway, so I'm not brave enough to play something, even though Gary, my brother, is asking me to. Anyway, oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh yes, was asked how many scales can it play. So the beauty of this is, and it's all done in code right now, but I can change these keys so they play, for example, a minor scale, a pentatonic scale, a pentatonic minor scale, or a Japanese music type, or any kind of scale, key, or anything you like. And the idea will be, I'll go back to my main screen. So the idea is that that you could, once you put it, if you put this this instrument in the blues scale, you can pretty much hit any note against a blues song as long as you're in the right key, and away it'll go. And you just change. I mean, eventually I'll have a user interface for this. Oh, I can stay. Yes, I'll stay on for. I can't see for some reason how many people are still viewing. So yes, I'm happy to stay on. And in fact, I could even show you how you change the scales in the code here. You just change one line, and show you how to do that if there's interest in that. For some reason, I'm using YouTube Studio, but I'm having a difficult time. But I have my wife's here as a helper, so she's been watching the comments. So let me go back to see if what I had left in my presentation, and then maybe we'll go and have a look at changing the. Oh, well, that was questions. So, oh yeah, I want to show you the.
Blue scale. Can you show it?
Yeah. I'll show playing the blue scale, but you'll just have to bear with me. But one thing I wanted to demonstrate what I use what the potential of having that a quadcopter controller in there. So on the back of this, I put another touch. Oops, sorry. How's that? All right. On the back of the keyboard here, I put another touch button. This is just the connection to the microcontrollers for the ground. But I put another touch button here. And that's for special effects. And I could have a bunch of them. I've decided that mechanical buttons will be way better for this because it's too easy to hit this. So, but let me just show you how that works. So, oops, I have to go back to Garageband for a sec. And let me select the flute. There we go. There you go. I'm going to leave it on Garageband. All right, so let's just play the flute note again. So we get a pitch blend. We can get some vibrato. This thing actually rotates, has 3 axes. So we could use this one for volume. We could use this one for some kind of rotation of the sound between channels. So that's the kind of thing. So I think that sky's the limit for what you can do there. So now I'm gonna change scales on the EMMMA-K, and as I said, this would have some kind of user interface, few buttons and maybe a little screen so you could do it. And I've already prototyped that using another keyboard called the Launchpad. And that's a whole other project and maybe a video for another time about the Launchpad. But let me just get back to the code here and find the EMMMA-K. So here, so actually the code for the EMMMA-K is not very much, I have to say. This is typical of real-time software. It has to run reliably, it has to run fast, and generally it ends up being simple, fairly simple. Well, let's just, let me just go back to here so I can show you, since I wasn't showing you the code at all. So here it is. It's a few lines, really, 2 pages maybe. So in here, these are just the different scales that I've already got programmed into this thing. So right now it's C major scale. So let me just go on, and I'll just comment out the C major scale. And I think that the oh, I don't have the blue scale here. Darn. What I do have though is the C minor, is the minor pentatonic, which is very close. The only difference between that and the blue scale is the blue notes. So the blue scale, at least the way I implement it on here, would have 6 notes in the scale, whereas the minor pentatonic has 5. And hit the right hotkeys. And did it work? So this actually works really good. So if I'd have been prepared, I might have been brave enough to play against a blues backing track. But you can see it's no longer the key of C. And in fact, because there's only 5 notes in Oops, sorry. There's only 5 notes in the... Oh, I'm not showing you the keyboard. Let's do it again. Sorry about that. Let's try it with Night Drive. So I think you can see you can have great fun with this. I think it's got a lot of potential for a turn into a real instrument with a nice case, nice user interface. Yeah, and just me. Yes, I see a question there from Clark. Oh, couple of questions. Oh yes, I will post the code. I was kind of if I'd sort of made up my mind. If anyone asks, I would love to do that. It'll be on GitHub by tomorrow. Very pleased to answer any questions. I have a contact page on my website, and yeah, and I think I have pretty good explanation. Happy, like I said, and so I don't know if I have any unanswered questions. I can't. Not that I'm starting to see the questions again, but they might have come from.
I just want to know if you can post the code.
Oh, I'll go. Yes, I said I will post the code on GitHub, and the link on my website.
How many scales can you play?
Oh, yes, I think I answered that. So you'll be able to switch scales with some kind of interface, like a set of buttons and some kind of display, and so it's really infinite. It's whatever you choose to do. So, I mean, I would love it if someone took this and did their own thing with it and turned it into something fantastic, because I think it's just the amount of imagination. So anyway, I hope for those of you who...
There's a question here, MIDI. And you don't need to code frequencies, just MIDI, no
yeah.
numbers?
Yeah, I answered.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to sign off now. And I really appreciate everyone for watching. And yes, I went quite far over time. I'm sorry. So, have a great day, and we'll see you online again, I'm sure.